Hi YouTube. I'd like to give you a book review of Stealing Fire, written by Mr. Kotler and Mr. Wheel. Essentially, straight off the bat, I'd really recommend it. I think it's really changed my perspective on a lot, really fleshed out a lot of areas which I thought I had, like, beginner understanding, but now I really understand how beginner it was. And whilst arguably it's not the most comprehensive book, it can't go into like full detail on every topic because it touches so many. I think what it does go into and sheds light on is like can be truly life-changing. So I guess every review needs goods and bads, positives and negatives. Start with the positives first. As I said, very comprehensive. I thought it tackles a lot of different areas of human experience, ties them together like very well, in my opinion. It's very informative because of that. It takes a multidisciplinary approach to everything, which I think is always helpful. You've got to have, why not, right? Like, we live in a world which is so interconnected and there's so many different disciplines which have good information that can be shared and benefit each other. So that's really good. It's an interesting mix of spiritual and scientific research. They've obviously done a lot of research into many different areas of life. Because of this, I thought it was quite balanced. Could be potentially life-changing for you if you read it or listen to it. I listened to it on Audible, loved it. I'm listening to it again right now. Really would recommend it. It's very practicable, complements other books very well, I think. Can fit in and just be like a good foundation for a broader world understanding, especially the modern world. I think it complements a book called Homo Deus very well. I'd love to hear your opinions on that if you've read both. I just thought it was an interesting adjunct to that. It's very empowering, which, like a lot of books that I read at the moment seem to be. It has a lot of interesting topics to think about, such as neurotheology, which I didn't even know existed, and it just sounds amazing, I thought. So I want to be looking into that. The Chrysalis Institute is worth a look if neurotheology sounds interesting to you. Obviously, eye-opening information, fleshed out my understanding of what might constitute non-ordinary states of consciousness, or altered states, and it fleshed out my understanding of some of the methods of reaching them. This part of the book especially, I would recommend, and it might take you by surprise. It really, the spider web in between so many mainstream practices and altered states is just very interesting, because they're so ubiquitous, even in other animals, which I also thought was really cool. Some of you probably know all about altered states and animals chasing inebriation. I had no idea. This was like amazingly interesting. It broadened my scope of non-ordinary states of consciousness from medicine and psychedelic to something much broader. They have two very cool downloads you can get from the book. One is an altered state calculator. One is a hedonic calculator. I think these are really useful tools for kind of getting some objective perspective on your life and your interests in this area, which can be quite broad. After you've read this book, like, I didn't realise, but it's incredibly broad and can help you fine-tune areas which you're like putting time into or that have missed out. I didn't realise that I'd really missed a lot of quite like enriching practices in my life recently, and their methods for integrating those are really helpful, I think. You can head to their website, stealingfirebook.com, and get the downloads, I believe. It has a very powerful emphasis on community, which I think is beautiful, and I think this world really needs more of a community focus. There's so much, at least in the media, so much emphasis on like separation, alienation. You're different from me, I'm different from you, blah blah blah. And I think that really does nothing apart from fragment the world into like even harder to understand and compile kind of chunks to work together. So I think it's really good emphasis on community. And I found the information on like the potential of 3D printers being used with chemical inks to manufacture and produce any kind of like psychoactive substance that you might want at home. I thought that was incredible, and I'm really looking forward to retiring and getting one of those and just living out my days in hyperspace. Okay, some of the negatives. I think maybe they over-focus on some case studies. I don't really want to like pop the name on them. I'll let you read it, but I think you'll understand what I mean if you read it. Maybe it is really relevant what they're talking about, and it's had an amazing impact on the group, the area of society that they talk about, and has obviously global implications as it discusses. But I think maybe they rely on it a little bit too much. I haven't been, so maybe that's why I think that. Potentially they overvalue or read into it too much. And by it I mean neurobiological processes, the similarities of biological processes between different activities. I think maybe they look too much at the symptom here, and maybe the technology isn't as sophisticated as it needs to be to really lean on for some of the conclusions that they're drawing. Nevertheless, it's very interesting, and the good thing is that they leave a lot of room for this to be expanded on over time. And I think it will be. We live in a time which is like rapidly expanding, and interest into this is really, really blossoming since the kind of medical research embargo has been lifted in America on psychedelics. So watch that space, I guess. In sum, I hope this has been helpful. I know I talk quite fast. It's my first review. Quite excited about this book. I had to like say something about it on a platform that might reach people because I really think it can help almost anyone. Like you're human. I think this is of relevance to you anthropologically. I really do. I think it's just a wonderful resource. I can't thank them enough for writing it, really, and I've emailed them to say that. I'd really recommend it. You can make an account on Audible. Your first book on Audible is free. Could be worth just doing that for this. It's 8 hours. You can listen to it in the morning, on your commute, or walking or something. It's a wicked thing to listen to while you're walking around. I hope you enjoy it if you read it. If you have read it and you want to maybe criticize anything I'm saying, please do. I want to learn. I'm definitely not a point of authority on much. I don't really want to be. But I'd love your advice on this, and your opinion. Especially if you have any other books that you'd recommend reading or that might criticize the points of view in this book. Please feel free to comment below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this. Have a great day. Bye.